I got some bad news, guys. We were supposed to get Elder Scrolls 6 almost 10 years ago, but some major changes actually happened in Bethesda that changed the trajectory of when Elder Scrolls 6 is actually supposed to release, and it's actually not good at all. We may not even get Elder Scrolls 6 for another 5 years based off of this news that actually happened as of today. So let's talk about it. So you guys remember the game that sold almost $1 billion the first month that it was actually released, the game that actually sold over 30 million units the first month, and the game that dropped in 2011 that is over a decade old, that is still popular, not as much but still popular till this day. This is Skyrim. You all know Skyrim. You got the Dragonborn, you got the Thanguards, you got the vampires, you got the werewolves. This game was actually ranked one of the best-selling games of all time. That goes to tell you how big of a game this was back in 2011. Now, when Elder Scrolls Skyrim actually released, that we were actually all anticipating on the next Elder Scrolls game to actually drop, and we've been waiting for this game for almost 10 years now, essentially more than 10 years at this particular point. Some major changes happened, and they were actually teasing Elder Scrolls 6 for quite some time ago, but we never heard any sort of releases or information ever since that tease. Today we kind of got some major breaking information as far as what actually went wrong with Elder Scrolls 6 and some of the changes that they're actually doing for Elder Scrolls 6. So some of the news that's actually going around is that the former Elder Scrolls writer and lore master Kurt Coleman speaks on what actually went wrong with Elder Scrolls 6. So who Kurt Coleman is, he's actually a writer for the Elder Scrolls series. I'm assuming he wrote Elder Scrolls Skyrim. He also wrote Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Forgive me because I haven't really played Oblivion, but I kind of started my journey in Skyrim. But he may have wrote those two games, but I'm pretty confident he wrote Elder Scrolls Skyrim. And this is actually what he had to say in regards to some of the changes for Elder Scrolls 6 that is actually going on right now. So he says, Todd Howard, director and executive producer at Bethesda Game Studios, promised Kurt Coleman on lead design role only to find out 11 years later that they went with someone else. So imagine this game dropping in 2011 and 11 years later he actually finds out that they go with someone else on the lead design for Elder Scrolls 6. So you can imagine the frustration he's dealing with when he kind of found out on that news, and this is actually why he kind of made all this breaking news right here. Once Skyrim actually dropped, everything changed. After Skyrim's success, Coleman was actually the co-lead on the project. So after Skyrim dropped, the next project that they actually dropped was Fallout 4. Now after Fallout 4, based off of what Coleman was actually saying, Elder Scrolls 6 was actually supposed to happen. And keep in mind, Fallout 4 dropped in November 10th of 2015. Then you had Skyrim that dropped on 2011. So keep those dates in mind. Elder Scrolls 6 was actually supposed to happen after Fallout 4. However, they never did it. They actually transitioned into Fallout 76, which followed dropping in 2018. After Fallout 76, there was still no news, no changes, no announcements as far as when Elder Scrolls 6 was actually supposed to drop or make some sort of announcement when that game started making development. If you guys are still watching this video, I just want to say I appreciate you guys and shout out to you guys for tuning in to your boy, and I just want you guys to know to feel free to drop a subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. Helps me out. At that point, no announcement. Moving forward from there, they eventually decided to drop Starfield, which took a while to make. At that point, once they dropped Starfield, everything changed for Coleman. At that point, it kind of sounds like he felt kind of left behind because he was supposed to be the co-lead on the Elder Scrolls 6 series, but after them dropping all of those different projects, you have your Fallout 4s, you have your Fallout 76, now you have Starfield. Considering that Todd Howard told him he was going to be co-lead on a project and he hasn't heard any sort of news as far as when that game was supposed to be dropping or started working on and all those good things, he kind of left him feeling a little bit behind or played. So what happened after Starfield dropped back in 2023? Kurt Coleman actually left Bethesda in 2023 after 20 years of being with that particular company. So there was some problems before the Xbox acquisition have actually happened. When you think about a company of that scale, Bethesda, that works on those massive open world games, those massive role-playing games, you know, you have your Elder Scrolls, your Skyrim, your Starfields, your Fallouts, those games take a lot of time to actually develop. And the problem that I'm assuming that they're having with those games and the time that it actually takes to develop those Scrolls games is just the manpower that it actually takes to make those particular games. And so what happens is when you have multiple projects and most of your eggs are separated into different baskets, you won't be able to have enough manpower to focus on one project to give it the best of its ability to be able to produce an astonishing AAA game. In other words, if you're supposed to be making Elder Scrolls 6 and then you decided to have a team that works on Fallout 4, then you have another team that works on Fallout 76, and you have another team that works on Starfield, you start to not have as many people working on the original game that was supposed to be released after Skyrim, which was essentially Elder Scrolls 6. At that particular point, the problems before the Xbox acquisition that actually happened, design lead Todd Howard, aka CEO of Bethesda, became less hands-on and more bureaucratic. His version of Elder Scrolls 6 was essentially going to be Empire Strikes Back. 11 supremacists were the bad guys, and they would ultimately come on top, setting up on Elder Scrolls 7. Now, it sounds like Todd Howard actually kind of had an idea to where he was going to kind of create a whole Elder Scrolls story that was kind of going to tell a story through multiple games. I don't really see anything in regards to Kurt Coleman actually creating a story in regards to all of the whole Elder Scrolls series. It just kind of mentions that he just wanted to kind of do a co-lead on the Elder Scrolls series. And besides Skyrim, I don't think there was any sort of major setup for the next Elder Scrolls game. Essentially in Skyrim, you were the Dragonborn and you were trying to fight Alden to kind of take back the world, as far as him trying to take over the world and controlling the world with his dragons and resurrecting dragons and so on and so forth. That was kind of the whole story when it comes to the Elder Scrolls Skyrim world. Now, Todd Howard, his version seems like I mentioned, he's going to kind of have a whole story that connects every single Elder Scrolls game, which makes a lot more sense. The problem with that, he's a CEO, and so if you have a CEO that is simply too hands-on with a company, it starts to lack other projects that company has in the making because he's too hands-on. If the CEO is trying to work Skyrim while also trying to work Fallout 4, while also trying to work Fallout 76, while also trying to implement an idea for Starfield, one of those projects typically can lack guidance. Essentially what happens when you become less hands-on as a CEO and you kind of lead the role of that game to someone else, they may not actually have the same vision that you actually have with that game. And so what happens is when Todd Howard decides to review that game and it's not the way he anticipated that game on being created, changes have to be made, time needs to be delayed, internal roles may need to be switched just because the vision of what he had for that game is not what is actually being developed with that game. And so that leads the game to being delayed, that leads to people being changed, that leads to roles being changed, such as Kurt Coleman actually leaving the series or leaving Bethesda as a whole. Essentially, Kurt Coleman's vision is not aligned with Todd Howard, which is essentially why he told Kurt Coleman that you weren't going to be the lead design for Elder Scrolls 6 moving forward. So that kind of led to Kurt Coleman actually dropping all the news that we kind of have at this particular moment. Now let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like the idea that Todd Howard's vision was going to be set up for Elder Scrolls 6 to where it was going to be labeled as Empire Strikes Back, and then Elder Scrolls 7 was going to be kind of based off of the 11 supremacists were the bad guys, and they would ultimately come up on top setting up the Elder Scrolls 7? Let me know what you guys think down below. I kind of like that vision. I mean, it kind of tells a whole story within the Elder Scrolls series instead of just having one story for one game and then another story for another game, such as Skyrim. And that's probably what was going to happen to Elder Scrolls 6 before Kurt Coleman was actually let go, or he decided to quit at that particular point. Let me know what you guys think down below. I also did a video where I talked about the increase in prices that you're going to pay for gaming consoles and also PC hardware as well. I mean, you could be paying almost $700, $800 for a new Xbox console, a new PlayStation console, and you can almost be paying about average $1,600, $700 for a PC moving into 2026 and also 2027. That video is going to talk about all of the things that's kind of transpiring within that space. If you want more information on that video, feel free to click that link up here. But that is all I got for you guys. If you guys enjoyed this content, feel free to subscribe. Let me know what you guys think down below. I read every comment. But other than that, I appreciate you guys. Until next time, peace.